Hi.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining back with us on our Twitch and everywhere where we're streaming. My name is Rafi Regulus. I use they, them, theirs as my pronouns, and I am a co founder and current president of NYC Gamers. Thank you so much for being part of this amazing event today. Today's panel is this current panel is going to be Stay Wind Woke, addressing anti-Blackness and the importance of aspiring allyship throughout gaming culture. So here with us, we have a legendary panel of folks who took time today of all days being Juneteenth to be able to celebrate Blackness in all its intersections throughout gaming culture and just acknowledging that we deserve this time to uplift one another and celebrate who we are in all of our multitudes. So I'm going to have folks go around and share their name, pronouns, your role or title, who you're with, and an icebreaker question. What was the first game you played that had a Black person in it or someone that you would headcanon as Black? And acknowledging that that can be a very personal answer, and that's okay. So let's start off with Aziza.
Okay, hi, my name's Aziza Brown. I'm the owner of Dynamic Focus. We are a esports team. Got my pronouns is she, her. Um, Basically, we're an esports team focused on fighting games, and we have a content creators division. I'm also the investor in the Queen of the Hill series, which is a series for um. Sorry, I'm did this so many times. Um, for investing for a women's tournament series for non-binary and women competitors to be highlighted, so that more women and more non-binary people know that we exist in this space and there are competitors in this.
Thanks, Aziza. And if you feel comfortable asking, or if anything, we can circle back to you. What was the first game you played that had a Black person in it, or a Black character, or someone you headcanon as Black?
Okay, so I have to say Street Fighter with Balrog, but I never played him because that was a thing. No. Actually, my first game that I actually played with a black person in it is Mike Tyson's Punch Out. Before they decided to erase him because of controversy, but I did have the original Mike Tyson's Punch Out, and I played that. And somehow I was young and I beat him. I have no idea how that happened. I still don't know to this day because I can't beat him to this day. So
Well, that's awesome. And I just love the fact that you're starting off by naming a retro game that a lot of folks tend to overlook, especially when you talk about the history of like erasure in gaming when it comes to Black characters. So thank you. We're going to move along to Ari. You're on mute.
All right,
Awesome.
here we go. Um, hey, my name is Ari. I am a gamer, booktuber, blogger, also a musician, and I read, play games, things like that. I am in various spaces. I actually am a volunteer as well. I am pretty well um embedded in the community out here in Brooklyn. So yeah, I go by they them their pronouns, and I am just very excited to be here. Now, the first game I ever played with a black person was a boxing game as well. I used to play as Anderson Silva because he had the same last name as me, and I'm Afro Latinx, and I'm very proud of that. So he was like one of the blackest people on that game. So yeah, that was something that I really enjoyed playing as a kid. So
Awesome. Thank you. Next we have Blasian FMA.
Hi, I'm Blasian FMA, aka Jonathan. My pronouns are he, him, his. I am the creator of the Black and Asian Alliance Network, as well as the This QPOC Life podcast. and I've been a YouTuber on the platform since 2008. So I call myself being OG status, even though I don't have millions of subscribers. When you talk about controversial things, the algorithm likes to suppress you. So that's that. As for me in the video game, first black person, it was Michael Jackson's Moonwalker on
Yeah.
on Sega Genesis, and I think it also helped me like get into music because I was like such a little kid, and there was a lot going on there. I want to talk about Mike Tyson's Punch Out. That was a hard game, and if you go back and you try to play it today, because we don't like back then we didn't have anything to do, so we would learn the patterns and all this stuff. It's hard. Try going back and playing that game. That's all I'm gonna say.
Hmm. Thanks, Jonathan. All right, next we have JC.
Hey guys, I'm JCW. I am the founder of the Gamer Ally People of Color, whose mission statement is simple: to build, house, and protect Black and Brown voices amongst the queer diaspora and their allies as we continue to create what the community of gaming looks like from our perspective. I'm also a part of the TO Talks podcast. I'm now signed to both Diversely Geeks family, which I'll be doing seminars for on the 27th. I just recently signed a multi-year extension to the Blurred Con family. Have some other stuff in the works. Your boy's kind of busy. So I'm all over the place trying to get us all over the place, if you get what I'm saying. Dropping a new syndicate next week. I'll have more information on. I believe the first game that I played with a black person in it was Sega Game Gear's X-Men 2 Clone Wars with Bishop. Or was it Age of Apocalypse? It might have been Age of Apocalypse or X-Men 2 Clone Wars. I want to say it was X-Men 2 Clone Wars. You threw me off when you said black person. I was like, black person? I think it was Bishop. So yeah. Of course, Sega Game Gear, so it was like the other Game Boy. And I was this little kid. My mom wanted me to be different, extra, and middle class neighborhood, you're trying to keep up with folks. But seeing him and then already watching him on the cartoon and then being able to play with him. And then I was like, oh, I can take hits because he can shoot it back. That's dope. It was like the first time that I had seen heroes in my perspective growing up as a child where I was just like, oh, I want to be him. Of course, granted, you had Storm and you're older and her hive is, like comic book Beyonce, good God, and she's had her representation in gaming. But when it came from seeing somebody else, it took tokenism off the table. And I was like, oh my God, there's another one, and back then I'm like 5 or 6 and I couldn't process what tokenism was. But the fact that I saw another one, I was just like, because the other one that I seen, Mishnari was running through the cartoon. There was one episode, and all I'm thinking, right now reading comic books, I was like, oh, this must be what it is. So it was nice to see that. That was my first game. Both of them were actually in it, and it was an enjoyable thing for me. And my romance with X-Men continues to this day.
Yes, that just means that you're going to be on my next panel series, like when we're having conversations about the Hellfire Gala and Planet Size X-Men and all that. So we're going to talk about that later.
You invite me. I'm down.
And last but not least, we have Raina.
Hi, everyone. I'm Raina. I am professionally a social worker by trade. I work with adolescents for a very long time. And in the last 2 to 3 years or so, I've been working with LGBT youth in particular. And so, my pronouns are she, her. And I guess, the first game that I played was also Mike Tyson's Punch Out. And I also played an X-Men game. And, as I'm listening to the other panelists, you reminded me of those games. And my favorite character in that game was Gambit, even though like Gambit's supposed to be Creole. And I just, I felt like he was beige, so I rolled with him. But I guess
big colorism.
yeah. So and I like Storm too, but I rode with Gambit. So I guess in terms of my affiliation with gaming, I don't game as much as I did when I was younger, but I do see the power of gaming for our young people. And so it's something that I've always paid attention to, and I've always kind of, encouraged folks to talk about, how it's helping, especially in the last year and a half that we've had.
Thank you so much, Raina. So, as our audience can tell from now, our panelists are legendary. We're coming from different perspectives, different backgrounds, and we're coming together to uplift not only who we are as a people, but also how do we celebrate one another as individuals, right? It's not just about self care, which our previous panel, Reclaiming My OO Time, was about, but now it's more about community care. Also, I'll name that my first Black character in a video game. You see, I used to think that my first character was, I think her name is Naburi or Narubi in Ocarina of Time, right? Because I think of the Gerudos and I'm like, oh, they all API and Black and we just stand, right? And then when you think about why is it that they were like in this desert area next to Hyrule with all the grass and shit, I'm like, telling. But I'm also thinking about how I used to love playing NBA Jam on the Super Nintendo. And it was one of the first games where there were like sprites that were playable characters where I was like, oh, they're not they're not white sprites, right? Like they're brown. And that meant a lot. Even if like, the New York Knicks, I mean, come on, right? In the 90s, that was cute. So that being said, before we continue with this panel, I want to take a moment to acknowledge that today is Juneteenth. It is not our responsibility to educate folks who don't know what Juneteenth is to do so. So I'm going to lovingly encourage y'all after this panel to do a Google search, go on the Twitters. There are plenty of free resources. New York Times even did an article about it. So it's very easily accessible. But something that I would like for us to invoke into the space is that for many of us in New York City, we are residing on Lenape or indigenous lands. I want to acknowledge the fact that we've lost many Black folks to hate violence, police violence, also acknowledging anti-trans related hate violence, anti-Asian related violence that's been happening for longer than the media allows us to believe. And the continued plight against, well, not against, but just naming and addressing that there is a genocide happening right now in Palestine. And, NYC Gamers hold space for them and is in solidarity with the liberation and decolonization of Palestine. Some names that I want to bring into the space are Leilene Extravaganza Polanco, Tony McDade, Breonna Taylor, and I mean, the list goes on. We could talk about these folks forever and a day, but I just want to celebrate the fact that we're here. We're not just surviving, we're thriving. And the energy of our ancestors is with us throughout this conversation. So thank you for being with us today. So I want to start asking folks about Blackness as a concept, because often whenever I attend conventions or have conversations with folks about Black in gaming, there's this difference for me, right, between what it is to be Black within my Blackness, within my truth, compared to what is the performance of Blackness in spaces that often underrepresent and marginalize us. So when I'm thinking of Blackness, I'm thinking about how it's constantly marginalized. And then there's this tunnel vision that comes with being Black, where other aspects of who we are, other identities, right, are often minimized or excluded. So, what is your experience with seeking intersectionality throughout gaming culture in any proximity? Aziza, I'd love to start with you.
Um. Okay, so I didn't understand the question. I'm gonna be honest.
It's all good. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
lot to kind of like jump into
Mm,
myself thinking about it, but to reframe the question, um, whenever I'm in a space like a convention, a tournament, anything like that, right? Whenever I find spaces that are intended for Black folks or conversations that are supposed to be inclusive of Black folks, I feel like my Black identity is being marginalized or minimized to fit into a box that caters to their needs.
okay.
So, I step into a
Okay.
room and they're like, oh, you're here because you're Black. But they exclude the fact that I'm also non binary, that I'm also neurodivergent, that I'm poor and from the Bronx, and all of these different aspects that make me who I am, right?
Yeah.
So, what does it mean when we're looking for intersectionality throughout gaming culture, the multitudes of who we are, the fullness of who we are, when Blackness is constantly being treated like this check mark in a demographic box throughout gaming culture?
Okay. So for me, I tried to educate the space more because of the fact that like one of the biggest things that this is such a broad question. I'm like, because the thing is that like you educate the space more by showing people who's doing the narratives, the stories, like the devs. The devs are the ones that are actually like talking about our stories, talking about everything like that. So it's not coming from the triple A's, it's coming from the indie. And you market and then what I do is I try to envelop that so people are educated on the different voices in the space for gaming when it comes to the development side. When it
Mm.
comes to the esports side, I'm starting to be in the room. So I can actually go and say that like F fighting game esports is mostly black. And having my people also going like, I didn't know that because the education of the media isn't there for us, you know. So it's not just like being in a box or anything like that. It's actually just crying out that each
Mm.
individual black person is each individual black person and not just, you know, one type of we're not we weren't manufactured black.
Mm.
We're different ethnicities because
Mhm.
people also don't understand race and ethnicity, and that's another education that you need to have. Nobody like there's not a lot of anything going on, and we're constant, and some of our games are coming from different countries, and they're not getting black voices in their spaces, so we have issues that come from different developers that we have seen throughout the year, you know,
Mhm.
especially in the fighting game community. You know, we have seen a lot of these characters come out that were just like, okay, who told you that this was fine? So you know, it's literally just like I'm constantly an educator. I'm constantly an advocate where I should be a gamer.
Mhm.
This is supposed to be my free time. It's not supposed to be me educating everybody in the space.
Mm.
So it's that's the deal. I could go on, and that's the reason why I'm trying to stop right now because that question hit a lot when it came to spaces and stuff like that. And also, when if you want to know more about that stuff, where I'm more candid, I do show up on TO Talk. So
Mm. Thank you. And you know what? I really appreciate that transparency with how is it that, the question impacted you. Because to be real, that's what I was hoping to get out of y'all. So I'm really looking
mhm,
forward to hear what other panelists have to say. This is an opportunity for us to really reclaim ourselves in the narrative because I know I'm not the only one that's tired. Jonathan, I follow you on different social media platforms. And even before we grew closer as friends, I've always been inspired by you and your platform because you've always been apologetic before it was a word that was trending on a hashtag. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Unapologetic, I think you meant.
Yeah, my
Yes.
bad. Thank you.
Because I ain't apologizing for shit.
Hello.
Oh, can I say that? I'm sorry.
No, yeah, it's all good. Say it.
um, for me, the question really invokes a lot of probably what you see me talking about on Twitter, in particular surrounding Square Enix. Um, on one hand, so I'm a huge full transparency. I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan, and if you know the history of that franchise, number one, it's huge, it's big, it's like this, it's iconic, it's legendary. And then I think about black representation throughout Final Fantasy. I got in 1997 with 7, which had Mr. T, aka Barrett. And that was just a walking, talking black caricature of a loud, brash, cursing all the time black person. I'm like, okay. And then fast forward to 2010, 13, you have Saz Catteroy, who is comic relief but has a little depth to him because he's looking for his son. And then you rewind back to 1999, Final Fantasy VIII, and you actually had black femme representation in the form of like maybe this mask presenting but femme energy person named Kiros, but like you never got any depth to that person. Now they just dropped this Souls inspired Final Fantasy that like yesterday, and you see that one of the characters is black and has locks, and it's like okay, like so cool, I guess, but like I don't like Square has this history of just always centering white appearing people, despite being a Japanese triple A developer, right? Um, and then like their record with representing blackness is not on point. Oh, but they also have the one that was Project Athia, and so like you got a black girl with a British accent talking about that's a motherfucking dragon. Like at some points I'm like, okay, I see what they're trying to do here. I hope they get it right. So like my relationship with Square Enix, not only with just the Final Fantasy series, but with the representation of blackness is always, I hope you get it right this time. Because every other time it's like, there's something lacking here. Like, is there a black voice in your Japan studio or like in your space? And like, and so I say all that. And then I also say, I am a huge proponent of black owned business, making things ourselves. And I love to uplift, especially on social media, people who are doing things in the form of or in the style of anime that are black centered and even queer. There's a short or a project that's being crowdfunded right now called Pretty. It's about a young black boy that learns how to swim over the summer or something, and he meets another black boy in the pool, and there's a little romance going on there or something. So yeah, I rant, so stop me anytime. But yeah, so that question really brings for me to mind the representation of blackness in AAA Japanese developers and anime and everything else, and acknowledging that the world could do better, but knowing that the pushback would be like, oh, but it's Japan, they can do what they want. Cool. I would like to see us black people do something AAA level and everybody receive it because everybody loves black culture anyway. So why don't you love something that we make? Fund us, or someone come along and make the studio. I know there's an anime studio by two black twin brothers. I'd love to see them have a huge come up.
Heard. And thank you so much for that. I also want to name and acknowledge that there's a popular Kickstarter that was trending recently on social media for an RPG that's Afrofuturistic called Into the Motherlands, developed by Tanya DePass and a collective of other legendary content creators, streamers, influencers that came together and created something that is ours. And I'm so excited to see it constantly trending. Folks have brought it up in other panel discussions we've had, and that's proof to what is it that you're saying, right? Like we want to see more of that. And imagine if Into the Motherlands and other games like that that center around Black content creators, game devs, and Black content in games were the things that would get like all of these AAA like sponsorships and studio money and awards and all these things, right? I want to recenter this conversation, but through the lens of Black narrative, right? Because something I'm hearing a lot from y'all has to do with like who's in the room where it happens, right? Whether it's through an esports lens or through a game development lens. And I think that Ari, you'd be a great person to start for that as someone who has a platform that is constantly uplifting Black voices through the lens of literature and literati, right? Um, when you play video games or are in gaming spaces where there are conversations that either intersect the center around being black characters, the diaspora and all that, right? um, what are some things that come to mind for you when it comes to like who's telling the story, who's directing the narrative, or how are some ways that you think that it could be improved upon?
First of all, we're gonna talk about me. If you have ever interacted with me on any space, I am very passionate about intersectionality. And one thing that I've always said is that you have to encompass the the whole of a person, not just one aspect. And to quote Janelle Monáe, we love her. And she always says, love yourself, even if it makes others uncomfortable. You know what I'm saying? She also says, uh, happiness and, just being yourself is the way you're supposed to be. Don't make yourself, someone who is palatable for others. Don't, change yourself, water yourself down. You are who you are. When you walk into a room, you are all of the things that you are.
Mhm.
So in the bookish community, it's it can be both a blessing and a curse because we're getting more stories that center Black voices. There's also the question of those who write stories from those indigenous places but are of the diaspora. And honestly, the argument is um, people should consult these people more when we're centering something that still exists. People who still practice certain things tell these stories. And honestly, it's hard because there is a disconnect. You can go back and talk to these people and find out more about these things and everything, but how does that change the narrative of your story? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like the most recent argument we've had on bookish Twitter is there's a book called Witches Steeped in Gold. It is supposed to be based in Jamaica and basically, based in Obia and all of these cultural aspects that are native to that island. And the person who wrote it is of the diaspora, but the complaint is that it had no soul. It had no, it was not well rounded enough to be considered a story that was about Jamaican culture or anything like that.
Mm.
So when we talk about the diaspora who's telling these stories, are we going back to some of these cultural centers to ask these people, hey, what's going on here?
Mm.
Like, do we need more information? Do we need to add certain things to our narratives to make our stories that we tell from this viewpoint legit? And also to touch on like a lot of the comic books and things that are being, released. We've got La Borinqueña, we've got Isnana, we've got the Crescent City Monsters and the Harriet Tubman, Demon Slayer, all of these different things that are cropping up. And I know for a fact that all of these people who write these characters and everything, they're doing their research all the time. I see these people in the Schomburg in their free time. And if you don't know what the Schomburg is, it is a center for African American studies. It's a place where people go and they do all types of research. If you talk to people uh like uh Denzel Washington and everyone, people who are like legendary, Harry Belafonte, they started out in the basement of this place. Like there's a theater down there where a lot of people got their start. And these people still come back and they do their research there for various other, roles and things like that. You will walk into the Schomburg and you'll be able to like rub shoulders with people you would never think would come back to the Schomburg to do research and things like that. We have Black Comic Cons that are cropping up. There's one in San Francisco. There's one that was supposed to start last year in Philadelphia. Like, these are places where we are able to walk in and, envelope ourselves in this, just atmosphere where we're accepted. We're walking into a room as all of us. We are they are taking steps to educate people on gender and, all this inclusivity and things like that. We have these things coming. And of course, sometimes it's not as fast as we would like, but they're coming. We have our own comic books coming out. We have people who are starting up their own, art studios and things. You got Samos Arte, you've got all of these places. There's a comic book author out of Nigeria. He's really cool and amazing, just so nice. Met him in person 2 years ago, and he writes this story about Nigeria before it was colonized.
Mm.
And the main character is this really strong Black woman. And we see these things coming. And I would like to see some of these things be turned into games and various other types of media. But it's there. You have
Mhm.
to look for it, but it's there. And there's a market for it. We're out here and we're doing the work, but it's up to the people who want to see it grow to actually put in that time. So
Thank you.
yeah,
I totally agree. I mean, I think
I'm
about
here.
Children of, the books, Children of Blood and Bone.
I have them.
Yeah,
I have
make it a game. Make it a game with the same energy that Marvel put into the Black Panther DLC.
we
Like, give me that energy and make sure that the right people are in the room and the right people are getting funded. And I think about like the Static Shock reboot. JC, I know you know what I'm talking about. They Milestone Comics, right? They got the new Static. It's a
yeah,
celebration of hair and just culture and like hair. Because I'm just like I was living, I almost cried, right?
yeah,
We need that. There's so much content, and I think about video games like what's that game that was inspired by that book? I mean, a lot of video games are inspired by books, right? And
yeah,
about these stories, but how amazing is it when you get black authors and you think of people like Octavia Butler and Kindred and like all these other authors that have these beautiful expansive imaginative worlds, and how there's so much opportunity to create gaming spaces that work for them, whether they're virtual, console or tabletop. So, thank you for bringing a lot of that into the space, Ari. I actually want to segue that into to JC, because you host one of my favorite Facebook groups, Gamer Allied People of Color, and I know that y'all expanded above and beyond what your Facebook group does. But something I want to celebrate, and I'd love to hear your thoughts and experience on, is how important it is to have these spaces for Black gamers, and acknowledging that your rules and roles are inclusive of folks who are Black and, right, Black and more than, and how y'all bring those safety spaces, like that safety into spaces. I'd love to hear more about that. Muted. See, they keep trying to oppress us. Go off.
It really speaks to. I'm going to talk about something that might be a little controversial here. I do believe that my group being Black and speaks to the fine line we walk between intersectionality and dog whistles. Because there is a portion of the community that likes to see that and have something to say, right? So it's important when we have a space that is safe, even amongst my own team. I'm going to be a little transparent here. I'm probably going to expand GayPod as a whole, but I'm expanding it separately. My admins have just come to me 2 nights ago and they said, why don't we just do this in GayPod? And so I brought up a post that, was very controversial and had hundreds of comments in my group, where one of my members asked, are straight people allowed in this group?
Mm.
That turned into a litany of war. And I think it showed the importance. You didn't see anger, you saw fear. Intersectionality is really about getting a soft reset from what the world gives you. Because in white dominated spaces, heteronormative dominated spaces, your ability to code switch comes with a limit that varies from being to being. So we really want to have a conversation about where it's safe and intersectional, because at that point, we can calm down. Because we're talking about now a 60+% rate. I think we're now at 70 with 12 to 16-year-old trans individuals trying to commit suicide. That's a staggering amount. We're talking about, transmission rates in the community that are so high that they're trying to deem certain cities pandemic cities because now it's 1 and 2. We're not even at a place where we can calm down and have a conversation about issues that are killing us. It's the mission. And I want to shout out Jahira Alto, excuse me. That was my mentor. She was also a member of my gamer group. And when I tell you, you want to see a philanthropist who really, I think Viola Davis said it best when she said the only difference between women and success in Hollywood is opportunity. I think that allegory to other communities is so prevalent. The only thing that didn't allow Jahira to get on CNN and be a philanthropist was the opportunity to do so. You want to talk about a scholar who was just ahead of her time, a woman who was killed by the life work that she lived for and produced throughout her lifetime. I see her and I see that, and I look at what I do, and I'm like, this is important for a reset. This is important for a calm down. This is what we need to, even in my group, we do the work. Even in my group, and Rafi, I'm sure you remember when the whole non-binary thing went down with Sam Smith, and a lot of ignorance started flying. This is part of the reason why we need to have a reset, because I say all the time, we need to have conversations within ourselves first. We can't go out here and say, well, this is what we look like. And then you get that one person who's just waiting for that dog whistle, and they meet that one person from the community that's just like, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. You can do this, this, and this. That's all they're waiting for. Intersectionality needs to become a unified movement. This needs to become a unified front. It needs to be a conversation where we agree and disagree, but learn how to respect that we need to present this a certain type of way and in front of a certain type of company, because it can be dangerous for us to divert from that and then start to allow hatred to perpetuate itself in those dominated spaces that we're, and I'm just going to be honest with you, trying to take back over. Because I'm not interested in coexistence at the moment. We can talk about coexistence when we get to a point of takeover where you're annoyed. And then turnabout is fair play. And then I can talk to you and be like, okay, well, now that you've been pissed off the same way I've been pissed off and scared for the last 30 years, let's talk about how we can even this thing out and make a case. So I think that's where intersectionality is important. And I don't want you guys to think that my group is the model group. It's not. It is a very flawed thing. But when you come in my group and you see these issues come up, you really get to see raw and uncut what it looks like when it's just us having the conversation when we don't have white or heterosexual interference. And I think that's something important that we need to see, we need to absorb, we need to discuss, and we need to be aware of when we lend ourselves to other things. Gay privilege is a new term in my group. You type the word gay privilege, and a lot of people are like, eh. And psychologically, when you're proven wrong about something, your brain produces the same effect as though somebody hit you. And then you start to find this body response of, well, how do I deal with this? Oh my God, I can't believe what's going on. And then that starts to feign ignorance. And you have to break that down with sensitivity and humility and say, hey, I understand you're hurting right now. I understand that you might have been shocked by this, but let me invite you to consider why it might be important for you to be a lended ear so that we can build this unified intersectional front that can be produced to the population level.
You better go off. Got me wanting to throw my Patty LaBelle heel at you. I'm like, this is exactly why I was like, you need to be here. Because, you say that your group is not a model, and it like you may feel like it's not the model, but as someone who's been navigating Facebook groups and has moderated several for years, it is an example of how much better we can hold other groups and admins to be. I mean, if Reddit was even a fraction of as like aware as your group was, maybe it wouldn't be as problematic, right? And I think that this is a beautiful segue to Reina, because Reina, something that I'd love to celebrate and uplift about you is that you are you always bring your full self to the work that we do, right? And I hear from LGBTQ youth, especially LGBTQ youth of color, trans youth, Black trans youth, that have had the blessing of being in a support group or in individual sessions with you, and they come back to me and they're like, "Oh, Rita is fab, and Rita is all the things, and like all the like, you deserve all the flowers, all the roses, right?" And I would love to hear from you, from your proximity, from your experience, right? Why is it important to have these conversations and to make spaces like JC's group, esports platforms like the ones that Aziz is present in, right? Podcasts and other social media platforms that Blasian FMA runs, and you know, literature and academic spaces and other forums where we find folks like Bori Queer Reads, right? Like, why is it that these areas are important, especially to trans youth, to Black trans youth?
Yeah, that's a really good question. As we are talking about, the staggering rates of suicide and self-harming behaviors among our youth, it's so important that I do my part to create a safe space for these kids to have to just come and be themselves, to share their fears, to feel like they're going to be okay even if it's in that moment. As a cis female, I think that it's even more so important for me to be able to create that safe space with them, because I'm not, technically in the community, right? I mean, yes, I'm a Black woman, so that has its own strikes, but I I code shift for different reasons, right? In different ways. And so being able to have a space for young people, to come and talk and share their experiences and share, how they're navigating or how they're trying to navigate, and me being able to kind of give them some feedback just because of, my age. I'm older than they. I have more life experiences, not the same experiences, and I try not to, even present myself as knowing what they've gone through. And I often tell, every young person that comes, across my threshold, how proud I am at the fact that they even got to me in the first place. And I want them to celebrate all of the efforts that they've made so far and whatever they've done and wherever they are in their journey, because it's so hard. Like, who wants to do what they're doing? Who wants to go through the difficulty that they're going through? So when I tell you, I am like, yes, you are doing it. I really mean that. And I really want them to feel that when they come through my door. Secondly, I think that, what I want to create, as a person of color, but also a person, who's had my own struggles and who sought mental health treatment, which is not what you're supposed to do as a Black person, right? You're supposed to go to church, supposed to pray about it, so take, you're supposed to talk to your elders in your family, but you are absolutely not supposed to go and talk to white people about nothing, right? So that was one of the reasons why I became a mental health provider, was because I wanted to create a space where someone who looked like them would be able to offer them, some feedback about, just navigating what it means to be depressed, to be anxious, and to have a place to go to talk about that. When you couple all of those regular mental health struggles with just society, you're looking at a young person because, they're starting to explore their sexuality or they're starting to explore their gender. And to everyone's point here on the panel, where you now feel like you have to educate everybody. I had a young person come to me yesterday, very anxious at the fact that they had to ask for a different colored cap and gown because they were gender specific in their school, and they struggled to go and ask for the one that they wanted, but they didn't. And when I tell you I threw a parade in the office. I'm like, yes, you go and get the cap and gown that best reflects who you are, and never mind that you have to explain it. The issue, though, and I think a lot of our panelists, shared this, is that, it's exhausting to talk over and over and over again about, who we are and why we are, and, feeling like you need to tell people, explain yourself, right? And so I think that it is a big deal, and it is a huge, self-esteem boost to be able to just stand in your truth, be who you are. And I encourage that. I applaud that. I water those seeds, for our young people to help them to, be okay with who they are, with not feeling like they have to explain anything. However, I'll put a point here is that if I as a cis, person, if I don't understand something, or as an old person, because I'm old and the young people are coming in and they doing young people stuff, and I'm like, well, what's that? Why are we doing that? Right? Again, it's not from a place of judgment. It's just because I'm trying to understand it. But even that, I present to the young people as an opportunity for them to teach, which also empowers them. And it still goes back to building their self-esteem and building their voice, right? But in building your voice and being comfortable with your voice, it can be exhausting, going back to that point. And I think that, when you get to a point of being tired, there still needs to be a place where you can stop and take care of yourself. And so that's another goal that I have to teach, everybody that I come in contact with, that you have to take a minute every once in a while to take care of yourself, because, the work that we're doing is exhausting. It is tiring. And, we are sponges. We're taking in all of the stuff, the good, bad, and the ugly of the world. And at some point, you're going to have to wring yourself out, or you will not be effective. So being able to normalize that is my goal in life. Is to just let Black and brown people know that we don't have to be superheroes all the time. We are fabulous, but we don't have to be superheroes all the time. Every once in a while, you can put your cape up, you can take a nap, you can eat a sandwich, you can take care of your temple, both mind, body, and spirit, and then you can get back out there and face the world again. But the self-care needs to be a part of that cycle. So I'm so happy to be here and to hear all of the work that everyone is doing. And I think that, everything that we're all doing is really going to model for the next generation that they can do even more. Thank you.
Panel. This is a Rafi group therapy session. You better work. I can't. I'm like I think about what it was like growing up and navigating the multitudes of who I am, right? And I'm sure some of y'all can relate to this. Well, all of y'all can relate to this, right? It's like we aspire to be reflections of our elders, of our ancestors in many ways, but we also challenge them, right? And that's the resilience of youth. We challenge what was because we know that we deserve better and that we can do better. And whenever I go to gaming conventions, I talk to gaming leaders and we're having these types of conversations, I think about, all right, and what are you doing to make sure that youth are also listening to you, that youth are present in the space? Because we're all experts in our lives. We're all specialists within our fields, right? But I want to know who's the next Blasian FMA? Who's the next Aziza? You know what I mean? Like, I want to know who's the next Rafi, who's the next us? Because if we're not investing in the next generation, which white supremacy doesn't want us to do, right? If we're not investing in that intergenerational education and opportunity and all those things, what happens is that the wheel keeps getting reinvented. The cycle keeps occurring. And it's unfortunate because of the fact that we've seen this so many times, especially in gaming, where, it took 20 something years for people to even learn that the video game cartridge was invented by a Black man. Like so many things that keep getting reinvented and keep getting rediscovered because of the fact that we are in a world where social media makes information more accessible to a radical point of view, like to a next level kind of thing. It wasn't until I met Aziza that I even knew that fighting game spaces were historically Black, and that they are majority Black spaces where you can feel like, yeah, this is right. Like this just makes sense, and I love that. Something I also love and I really appreciate from you, Reina, is how you acknowledge where your identities lie or where your truth lies in between advantage and disadvantage, or acknowledging oppressed identities compared to those that hold privilege, right? Um, I think a lot about aspiring allyship. And we hear that word a lot, especially, corporate pride, Juneteenth becoming a federal holiday. We hear a lot about aspiring allyship or allyship. I'm an ally. And something that we say a lot at NYC Gamers is allyship is not a noun. It's not an identity. It's not a safety pin. It's not a label, right? Allyship is an action verb. It is a verb, right? It describes a person, place, or idea, right? But it only exists when there is action that relates to it. So I think about aspiring allyship throughout gaming culture. And I'm going to open this to the floor for whoever wants to, just get on the panel, talk ministry, right? I'd love to hear from y'all about what is your relationship with the concept of aspiring allyship? And when is it okay for folks to be active in aspiring allyship? And when is there times where it's like, all right, maybe you're doing a little bit too much? And there's a difference between you speaking for us compared to you speaking with us or you uplifting our voices. So if any of y'all would like the floor.
Azizi, you think about who I'm thinking about?
Uh, is it the song?
And no, the ally we know
The ally we know.
that
Mm.
we speak with every other week.
Oh yes, yes, yes. He's
What a
never
great
doing too much.
I want to give time to shout out one of our co-panelists on TL Talks. His name is Josh Porter. He is one of the driving forces behind the fighting game community major tournament final round based in Atlanta. First major of the community in history, ran by a Black person. I think when I think about allyship in its proper conduction, I cannot think of a greater student to that form of activism than Josh. Simply because I can think of a couple of others. Connor Peterson, if you're watching this or you're grazed by this, I want you to know I see you in my group and I love you. Nathan Miller. I have allies that are in gay POC that those are the three that I think of. But Josh really, when I want to tell y'all, when it's about allyship with him, we have a discussion about something that affects us, and then he comes in behind it and he says, I just want to say thank you for allowing me to listen to this. And I want you guys to know that I'm going to reinforce this with the people on my end that don't want to hear it, because this is how things should be. We want to get you guys to a place of equity. And I'm here to lend myself in whatever capacity possible in order to do so. This is what we talk about when we say allyship is a bit of a learned behavior that can become an inherited trait, because then we start deconstructing racism from the perspective that we need it to, right? So, this man has a wife and he has a child that he's raising. So I know that there is at least one family in this country that is in good hands because we have a great ally in this man. And it is, a desire of us all in order to get us to a place of equity. If we can clone this type of behavior, if we can create more Jane Fondas, if we can create more 1967 Bernie Sanders, you know what I'm saying? If we can create a lot more allies who unapologetically will either stand in front of or be able to support from behind, and in my personal opinion, be able to do both in order to sandwich the activism forward with their privilege within the country so that we can get to a place of normalcy amongst all-inclusive environment.
Because
Yes. I just want to name real quick. I'm sorry. Before, I don't mean to disrupt you. I just want to name. You said a word there, equity. That's the word. That's the
yeah.
motherfuckings right there. All right. Sorry, Twitch. Go off, Aziza.
So I had to add for Josh, because the thing is that he came up and helped me with something that I could not express because of contract, and because I was literally speaking upon it in a quiet setting, and I couldn't speak louder than anything else. And when he discovered what I was talking about, he expressed it to the nth level to make sure that my voice got heard, to protect the community from this entity, to the point where the publishers, NetherRealm Studios and Namco, decided to make statements against this other corporation to protect the player. This is what an allyship is, that my voice could not be heard because I was behind red tape. And I'm sitting down here trying to protect my people, but I can't. And then he comes along with no ties, does the research, and puts it on the internet so that I can protect people. That's allyship. Speaking upon my anxieties and my problems that are legal. My lawyer couldn't say anything about it. But when he started speaking up, we were just like, we're in the room. We know that this is happening. And thank you, Josh. I'm going to go on mute.
But you will never be muted. You better work. That is, I can't stress enough how we need more stories like that, right? And notice how we can have conversations about folks who are doing the work without it minimizing the impact of us within our truths and what we're doing and why it's so important. I can name that the way that I was first introduced into the gaming scene, the gaming subculture, right? Gaming with a Y, was I used to go to game night at a club in Hell's Kitchen in New York City called Bochters. And, Shane Cherry, who's a part of NYC Gamers Board, was the person that would host that night. So I would go there every once in a while, play video games, meet people, mingle, network, OnlyFans, whatever. And and I met someone there who inspired me to interview for an opportunity with GamerX for their GamerX East convention a few years back, so that I could support them with their volunteers, to be a volunteer coordinator. I interviewed, I got it, and I didn't realize how much I was going to receive reciprocated. I received a space where I felt like I didn't know that I was so not alone when it comes to being a nerd, being a gamer, holding on to these many identities. I mean, it was the first time that I listened to someone on a panel who was non binary and talking about how gender dysphoria influenced the way that they navigated games like role-playing games like D&D and D and stuff like that, right? And it was a lot of those conversations, a lot of those interactions that inspired what became NYC Gamers and our mission and who we are and why I believe in this. And it's why I'm so thankful that each of you are here with us today and why you are all where you're at and where you're headed in life. Because y'all are the ancestors that our future generations will be talking about and invoking upon our energy. Y'all are the legends of today and of tomorrow, and I want to name that. I want to also acknowledge that there are many folks throughout gaming culture who are fighting for that visibility, right? And like some of y'all said on the panel today, it can be exhausting. It can be exhausting to do the work. I believe that Audre Lorde said something along the lines of, you know, um, waking up in the morning. The moment you wake up, you take that first breath. It's an act of resistance. It's an act of revolution. And I think that the same thing happens with us through our gaming culture, right? Like the moment that we are Black in gaming, the moment that we bring ourselves to the forefront, which we don't have a choice in, but the moment that we really uplift that and name that, that's an act of resistance and revolution because they don't want that. Anybody got a burning desire? Any thoughts? It's a lot of energy to hold on to, right? I mean, especially now when you're talking about Juneteenth and you're talking about corporate pride and the performance of diversity, how it's so performative, and now how, like, what pissed me off? And I'm just going to go on a rant right quick. It pissed me off when they made Juneteenth a federal holiday and made it so that white folks could also have the day off. Because I'm like, that don't work. That's not reparations. That's not. I'm like, who is this? Who is this serving? And like, I'm not here trying to have this conversation from a lens of gatekeeping, but it's coming from a place of self-preservation and intention versus impact. I'm like, I need there to be a day where folks are at work and don't see Black folks in the space intentionally, knowing that when we're not in the space, all hell is breaking loose because they usually hold on to us to do the multiple jobs that no one else wants to do, and yet we get paid less than any of them.
Yeah. You know,
Mm.
what makes my soul really like laugh is the acknowledgement of a Black TikTok and just scrolling through that for Juneteenth and having us talk about what the commercialism of Juneteenth is going to look like soon. You know, like we can see it over the horizon. There's going to be one company that decides to go and say, um, get 40% off because for, for 40 acres and a mule, or you get the 3/5 off. I was like, if you want to laugh, just go through TikTok and go through the Juneteenth commercials. It is how I feel about this. It's basically, it's another federal holiday where commercialism can take advantage of. And I literally, like, for Pride Day, I literally send the Pride memes because you know that a lot of these corporations put a flag on and they don't contribute. Like, why are you putting the flag on if you're not going to make an effort to put your money towards a cause? Don't do that.
Mm-hmm. That's real. I mean,
Yeah.
I know for a fact that some of us on the panel know what it's like to be impacted by anti-Black racism and violence from corporations or collectives that have the power to create change, still cause us harm, whether primarily or secondarily, and then have the audacity to send out emails and social media posts talking about Happy Juneteenth, we stand in solidarity, and da 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 da. Aziza, the 3/5 sent me. I can't. Someone fucking pick me up off
Yeah.
this floor. Because it's true. It's
It's
Um,
true. When
Fashion
you
Nova realness.
said that TikTok, I dropped my phone.
okay.
I was
I'm
like,
like,
I love it. I love it so much that made. I was like, I felt that because I'm like, I know, like, they just started the federal holiday on the 17th, so we couldn't really celebrate it on the 19th, and now we're sitting down here and we're just waiting for corporate to start actually making these rounds to just make this holiday as annoying as possible. Even the Twitch commercial got the shit wrong, which is hilarious too.
And I
Speaking
know
of
you are
Twitch,
directly
go off.
calling
Go
me
ahead.
out.
Yeah.
I know you are directly calling me out, Rafi, because this happened 3 hours ago. I'm very open about it on Twitter. I was a member of the New York City Gay Men's Chorus, which is an institution that has the power to make huge change. Unfortunately, as someone who has constantly called out problematic behavior and been quote unquote a whistleblower, they were just waiting to find a way to kick me out, and they did so earlier this month. Um, Hella BIPOC folks in the course, as well as white allies, came together and they're fighting on my behalf right now. But they had the audacity to send out a Juneteenth email this morning talking about, and we also recognize systemic injustice and failures and performative actions. What in their Juneteenth email, in which they said that Galveston is in Western Texas, which is probably as far east in Texas as you can get. So I heard, I felt that you wanted me to say this, and we were talking about what Juneteenth would look like in a performative action. Actually, I just wanted to bring up this post that I saw on Twitter from Diana Laura. She is a Black woman in the gaming industry. She posted this picture from the Food and Wine Instagram, and the caption is basically something about celebrating Juneteenth with grilled watermelon. I'm like, girl, are you serious? Is this really how we are going to start the first year of the federal holiday that is Juneteenth? All right, well, I can't wait to see what happens in the future.
Well, for the record, for anyone who's watching, that was my first pog on a Twitch stream, so we're just gonna name that. Secondly, what the fuck? Like, this is what I mean when I say we are fucking tired and exhausted, and it's just annoying. And this is why this is why I developed this panel, because I'm so tired of Black folks being asked to participate in shit where we have to perform to the proximity of whiteness so that they could feel sorry and they could have their 12 years a slave and they could have their fucking like these moments of like apologeticness and like your welcome politics and respectability politics. I want more moonlight. I want more I want more like, and even further than
In the
that, you
Heights
know,
with the actual In the Heights.
hello,
Oh
I
my
want In the Heights not to
god.
look
And
out
as
here
much as I
watching out here watching In the Heights and it looks like Dyka Heights. How dare you?
no, no, like, and as much as I joke, I was joking with someone. I was like, "Yo, maybe for Juneteenth we need to make some of these uh black neighborhood sundown towns." And as much as I joke, it's one of those things that like I feel in my soul. Sometimes we just need to give them some of a taste of their own medicine, honestly. And as much as I joke around and everything like that, I'm tired, I'm angry, I'm in a place where I'm tired of having to scream into the abyss, as I say, to people who aren't listening. It goes in one ear, out the other. And it's just one of those things where I'm just like, you know what? I'm not educating y'all no more unless you pay me.
Mm.
I'm not doing the emotional, work for you if you're not going to absorb and use that information in order to help the situation. It's
Mhm.
not my job to do this if you're not going to help, if you're not going to put your words into action. Because we have a lot of people out here who say, okay, educate me. And they'll sit there and listen to your diatribes and your rants and everything. And they turn around and just throw it out the window. So it's one of those things where you have to test the waters to see who actually wants to do the work before you
Yeah.
start opening your mouth.
Mhm.
Because honestly, it's tiring screaming at walls and nothing's getting done.
Mhm. No, yeah,
Uh,
for real. I mean, be careful, y'all, that are on Twitter and other social media platforms, right? And this is for the audience too, safety planning. Be careful with the folks that don't follow you, that aren't your friends, that are out here making very vague retweets and comments like, oh, English isn't my first language, which can be valid, but here's the thing, it's a bot, right? And there's a lot of troll accounts that use that as a way to kind of like start a conversation, or they'll say something like, oh, I'm trying to learn more, I'm trying to be educated,
Right.
I'm trying to understand. And it seems like there's good intention, but then they always ask a vague question that's like, well, what did you mean by this? And then it's like a trap. Because then
Yeah.
we
That's
as
the term
black
for
folks and
that.
trans folks,
Actually, I
what's the
have
term
a
for that?
Sea lioning.
Really?
yeah. That's the reason why, like, the protocol for that is that if there's an anime profile, the cartoon profile, and if the name has more digits than letters in the Twitter profile, we don't respond to that. There's a block button. It's free.
Thank you for sharing that, y'all. I didn't even know that it was called that. Poor sea lions, they deserve better. So, I want to acknowledge the time. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So I'm going to ask folks who are on the Twitch chat to post any questions you may have, and I'll relay them to the team. But I also want to open this space to you all to reclaim and let us know, what are you doing throughout gaming culture right now? Like, what video games are you playing? What are you doing right now that brings you joy? Like, I know a lot of us have things that we're responsible for throughout gaming. I'm busy all weekend with the Pride School Festival. I'm already thinking about NYC Gamers at Geeks Out FlameCon event that's coming up this summer, right? But I also celebrate the fact that I'm playing Genshin Impact and I am absolutely obsessed. And I don't ask me how many constellations I have on every character. I look, there are times where I have to choose between Weed and Eula or Diluc, and I'm just like, we can do Reggie today so that I could do one more wish pool. And that's me reclaiming that radical energy of me in gaming. Raina, you and I be playing Animal Crossing. You better work. Love visiting your island. I want to hear, what are y'all up to?
I play Trivial Pursuit. I am on Animal Crossing, Spiritfarer. Reading these books, I actually am on book tours and things like that. I do my blog and everything, so it's been pretty busy. And yeah, it's really fun to reignite this love of gaming that I've always had. And this pandemic has forced me to actually sit down and reevaluate how I feel about certain streams of media, because honestly, I can do without the TV. I'm a bookstagrammer. I love my music. I collect vinyl and things like that. So another thing is, I am a person who likes to be in my own world a lot. I am very much a person who loves to stay to myself. So gaming has helped me to kind of branch out and talk to people, which is amazing.
Thank you for sharing that. That means so much. Anyone else?
I'm playing a lot. I've been playing for a year now a lot of Valorant, the first-person shooter, and I have traditionally been a Cypher main. Cypher, he sets traps. He throws up a camera. He allows you to relay information to your teammates. And I love collecting a good receipt. So this would be my main. But here lately, I've been playing Viper. Viper is an American chemist. She looks like she might be of Asian descent. She throws poisonous walls and gas clouds and poisons folks. And with the events of my life here recently, if you follow me on social media, you know that I'm more now in an active attack phase, and I am able to isolate people and be very toxic to them if you are being very toxic to me. So that's just where I am right now, and so I think it reflects in my Valorant gameplay.
I need to get into that
Respectfully
game. Thank
toxic.
you.
I should openly say respectfully toxic. It
Word.
came from me first.
Anyone else?
Oh, so okay. So I've been playing what's it called? Aerial Knights Never Yield. Black Dev. The game is actually damn good. He did this game while working 2 jobs, and he was not financially supported while doing this game. So Aerial Knights Never Yield is like, I think it's $12 on every single platform right now. It is dope. The music's excellent. I played the music, the tone down. One project that I've been doing is that I'm talking to the people from Decoy Games from Insanity. They're another Black Dev. I want to start a tournament series with that, so we're talking with them. It's still in the works, so basically, that's going on, and I've been playing Strive. Um, I still don't have a main because my main has never come back to Guilty Gear for a while. Like I'm a Zappa main, and I'm a horrible person. That's why I play May right now, and Giovanna. And I'm always like, I'm trying to bring back my series for Monster Hunter Rise and having my chick running around killing monsters and stuff like that. I want to get back into Knockout City, but Nintendo and your eShop communication with that firmware update, please can I have my downloads back? But hey, you know,
Thank you.
continue.
I also want to name, no, thank you so much. And I also want to name, I have that energy when it comes to Overwatch because of so many reasons that really upset me, and the alleged light skinning that happened with Sombra and I think Baptiste. And it's alleged right now. We're still waiting for more development updates and stuff. But I don't know if y'all saw the recent pictures that came out. A lot of people put in befores and afters, and they were like, "There's not something right here." And some people were like, "Oh, it's the lighting," and other people were like, "That's some bullshit." I'm not making a definitive response to it until I see more content get released. But I'm still trash because my main is Overwatch. In Overwatch is Junkrat. And anyone who knows me knows I'm a fucking Junkrat main. That's my fave. That's my boo. That's my husbando. And they're like, really? Out of sheer honesty, Junkrat? And I'm like, I'm trash. I can name that. That's okay. And that's why we relate to one another. I'm the Roadhog to his Junkrat. Reina, I would love to hear from you. How's gaming been for you lately?
So I feel like it's been actually kind of the opposite. It's been bringing people together. It sounds like for a lot of folks here on the panel, and for me, I've used gaming as a way to zone out and not interact with other people. Like I'm literally just playing by myself. And I think probably because that's one of the ways I'm using gaming to take care of myself. Um, because I spend so much time interacting with other people and absorbing their energy that I really want to kind of do things that's just for me in my imaginary world. So I got into Animal Crossing during COVID. And before that, I played a lot of matching games and things like that online. I was like in like Candy Crush World during Candy Crush time when people cared about that. And I guess before Animal Crossing, I was playing Matchington, even though it's not there. There was very little people of color in the game. I mean, it's a white lady decorating a house, but the decorating of the house, kind of appealed to me because again, it had nothing to do with um, you know, like life, in my world. And so I spent a lot of time, playing that game. So gaming has really had the opposite effect. It even though like in listening to everyone talking, I'm looking at the games that I've played with a different perspective now, just based on the conversation we've had. So I appreciate everyone's feedback, and I'm even taking my role as an ally more seriously, because I agree it is an action word. It's not just hey, I'm here, I'm listening. You have to do something with what you heard, right? So um so yeah so i'm i'm really taking what's been shared here, and I'm looking at just what I support, the games that I support, the spaces that I take part in, and really, take in stock as to, whether that's something that I really want to continue, and I want to, get into other games. And I've been taking notes because, that's what I do. I've been taking notes on the games that everybody else is playing so that I can kind of get into other things, and learn and grow. So thank you all.
Thank you. And don't forget to sell your turnips tomorrow. Go off. We haven't heard from you, JC.
Games I'm currently playing. For those of you that know me, I am currently in a top 100 guild in the gacha game RPG sequel to Final Fantasy Tactics, War of the Visions. I'm currently fighting the activist fight very heavily in the gacha game community. I'm also playing King's Raid right now. There are a couple of other games I'm on and off with in the gacha circuit, Tales of Historia, Braves XVS. I'm just logging for rewards. But in War of the Visions or any gacha community in the higher tier of competitive narrative around these games, especially with those that have PvP content, Black representation gets to be thin. And then the comments around that narrative become more toxic. So I'm currently, even right now, I sit in a guild that, for all intents and purposes, is a good guild, but they still make a lot of really inappropriate comments. And I find myself having to G-check a lot of people in that group. Like, yo, what you said was some bullshit, you got to cut this shit out. So I'm really like the games that I'm playing right now, especially around the gacha circuit, because I can work from home, so it's nothing for me to log into one of my mobile games on the side, and then just I'm doing my job on Zoom or whatever, and then it's just running in BlueStacks on the side. Needless to say, it's just difficult in that circuit. So we're having a lot of conversation around that play, and trying to break some barriers there. And I'm hoping that I can kind of highlight the issues that goes on in those communities and how nasty it can get, how disgusting they perpetuate a lot of things, especially around female representation. And then wonder why no girl wants to play the fucking game. Needless to say, I'm also playing Sword of Art Online, Alicization of Course. I blame my moderator, Quentin Team Playing Bradley, for getting me into this game, because now he wants to make a little clan and go on raids and all this other stuff. I'll be jumping back into Final Fantasy 14 in August to get ready for Endwalker. I'm also playing Guilty Gear Strive because my main is back in the game, Anji Mito. So y'all can catch me around, the fighting circuit, doing a little shimmy here and there. I'm praying Nintendo will give me Pokken Tournament free because I am a very avid Pikachu Libre main in that game. I will ball you up. Like, I'm not even gonna hold my humility to it. Play Mario Kart right now. Playing party games with my guys, Smash, Pierre and Meekler, because y'all know how much I love Xeno. So, from my childhood on up, Monolith has been a part of my heart. So those are my circuits right now. I'm open to playing, whatever else when I'm in the room or in the mood. We're about to start Twitch casting in a group soon. So you might catch a group of us, having panel discussions and playing Uno on the side where we're about to start cussing each other out and then getting back to topics at hand. So hopefully, if you guys are interacting with us at any given time and we're doing an episode around a certain narrative, y'all can jump in and play with us too. And we can kind of reinvent what it looks like being Black, playing a game with an exclusivity. I feel like in gaming, a lot of us are sweating ourselves out. We holding ourselves out, y'all. This 5-6 hour stuff, not the Black man's thought. I'm about to reform what all of this looks like. And hopefully it's something that I can invite you all to participate in and get your own selves up, because we all know that the community at large loves to pick and steal. But one thing they can't pick and steal is our originality. They can try to duplicate this. They can try to imitate this, and they can pander. Did y'all hear me? Pander with a little splash of this, that, here, and there. But it's time for us to grab that back and say, hey, we know what we bring to this. We know that if you serve this without us, it's going to be unseasoned. So now that you know what we're giving to the table, please allow us to come into the kitchen and instruct you how to properly make this dish we call gaming, okay?
Period.
Yeah, I'll
And
also
if you do speak to someone from Uno, let them know that yes, the hell you can put one draw full on another. Don't come for me unless I send for you. Aziza?
Okay, so I also forgot one big thing, which is Black Minecraft. I am on that server. Um the biggest thing right now is that Janie Laney is the owner of that, and she's been trying to highlight Black Minecrafters because for some reason Black people don't play Minecraft in their mind. So she made Black Minecraft, was currently on different social platforms. You can actually follow it right now to highlight Black people playing Minecraft. And she has she has currently a Bedrock server that you can actually apply to. And for Juneteenth, it was supposed to be a Java server, but there's been a little bit of some things going on, so it opens up a little bit later. But hey, everyone should be following Black Minecraft and that's what I've been doing too, just playing Minecraft too in that server.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for that shout out to Black Minecraft. Awesome. Before we wrap up, we just have one quick question from an audience member. Social justice activists realize that our efforts will never be enough to experience social change in our lifetime, but we can't just give up and do nothing. So, does anyone have any words of encouragement? I want to start and I want to say, Audre Lorde said that the master's tools will never dismantle the master's home. And a big issue with these industrial complexes, you're talking about game development, you're talking about social justice, even like NYC Gamers, we hold ourselves accountable as a nonprofit organization and being a part of the industrial complex, right? Like, what we're doing is that we are not equipping ourselves with the tools of systemic oppression in order to become the oppressors. We have to catch ourselves not to fall into that pattern, not to fall into that crabs in a barrel mentality. What we do is that we search for where the energy is most radical, where it's most defiant of the system. And we say, all right, we're investing in that. We're investing in that truth. And often you find it in the places that are the most marginalized and underrepresented. Look towards your youth. Look towards your youth. Invest in them and know that everything that you're doing in your social justice platforms is going to keep going. And you are going to see change in your lifetime because you create change the moment that you inspire someone that is to the next generation. Make that change, be a part of that change. I'm gonna open it to, let's say, 2 or 3 of y'all that have any words of encouragement, and then we'll move on to wrapping up.
I'm coming in hot. If you ain't got a love for this, get out. I know y'all don't want to hear it, and I perfectly don't give a fuck. If you're tired, get out. Move. Move out of the way, because you're making my job harder. I just went live about that this morning. And I don't say that with hatred. I say that with love. Because I don't do this because I want to do it. I don't get up in the morning and say, oh my God, sun's out, time to go be an activist. That's not activist chose. Hello, Aziza? You know where I'm going with this. I done been hell and high water. I done talked about this. Activism chooses you. You got to sign up for this willingly. You have to choose to fork over your life. It's funny how we admonish a lot of religions for the things that they do. Activism is kind of that when you put it into place. You got to choose this. You have to devote yourself to it. And you have to live a life accordingly that shows and proves that activism is what you want to see moving forward. This ain't about you. So if you think this is about validation because you're trying to get people across 40 years, the Red Sea out into the land of Canaan, baby, you may as well just sign on to the fact that you struck your cane against the river and pissed God off, and you're not going to see it, to make the allegory between Moses and what we do. Because that's what we're doing. This is a consistent exodus back into a takeover. And I'm pretty sure when Maxine Waters was working to get Rosa Parks out of jail, being the first woman to get on Congress, and all the other stuff that she's done since the 60s, I'm pretty sure seeing change was not at the end of her roster, even today, as they lambaste this woman in Congress. That is not what she's here for. She's here because she got kids and grandkids, and she want to see if they can inherit something that's better than what they have right now. I do not do gay pop for me. Trust me. I made the group because I got blocked by the Rainbow FGC if I'm really being 100. Because I'm not a Capcom fuckboy. And it was given no X-Men, no peace for Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. That's why I made gay pop. But guess what activism did? It came right up in my group and said, excuse me, I'm going to let you finish, but activism time, bam. And then it was right there. I had 1,000 people in 6 months. I was a power Facebook admin of the United States. And I was sitting like Michael Jackson at a trial, dancing on top of a car, trying to figure out what the hell just happened.
You better work. You see, it's your ministry. I'm just preaching in there. You better work. Go off. All right, we have room for one more. Anyone else for words of encouragement?
I think that I will be I agree with everything that was just said, but I'll be the yang to that yin and say, you can also take a break. You can also work that self-care button and trust that the people, the seeds that you sow, folks are they're gonna ride and die with and for you. Like I said earlier, I'm going through something that is some fuck shit. Sorry, Twitch. It's some messed up stuff. But you know what I don't have to do? A lot of work, because my chosen family and the people that are true allies are doing that work for me on the inside. And I get to take self-care. And because for years I've been the person doing that. And for years I've had to tell people, especially these F6 allies, like, it's not my job to educate you. Like, also, I don't want to just dismiss it, but like, maybe try someone else right now. So, but you're right. Like, stuff would have not gotten done unless people would have been doing it for how long they were doing it for. And it's just good that those people, those giants whose shoulders we stand on, they sowed the seeds so that we could come up, and there's more of us now. So I think we have to acknowledge the reality as well that there are a lot of us, and that we can pass that baton not forward into the, we want to move forward, but also we can move it laterally as well as we all move forward together. Because you gotta sometimes you gotta take a self-care break. Just gotta do it.
Thank you so much. I think that that's a beautiful way for us to wrap up this panel. in celebration of who we are, why we're here, and where we see ourselves headed, and why is that it's important to keep on to that hope, right? And to keep hope alive. So I'm going to ask y'all, where can folks find you? Where can folks support you? And in solidarity with Juneteenth, without being performative, what is y'all Cash App, Venmo, etc.? Because y'all deserve. Let's start with Aziza.
So, okay, you can find me at on Twitter, ZZ down, ZIZI down. Um, you can find my Twitch is Naughty Nimbus Z, and you can find Dynamic Focus on every single platform. Dynamic with a K. We have dynamicfocus.com, so you can go there. So also now, here it goes. If you want to give me money, you can go and to my store, which is acquired.ca dynamic. We have a clothing line is more heat than FaZe Clan and 100 Thieves. You know, it looks great. It's streetwear. We're growing the brand too. You can find the Queen of the Hill series clothing line in the store too. If you go to dynamicfocus.com, you can find it too. I also put it in the classroom for Dynamic Focus. If you want to actually go and look at what I'm wearing right now, is one of our jerseys. So basically, you can support me there. If you want to DM me and then find out what my Cash App and everything like that, you know, we did not put because I have to separate my accounts now since I'm an LLC. So I have to. That's actually something that I'm doing right now. So we don't have the PayPal for Dynamic Focus. So that's it.
Thank you so much. And also, as always, if Dynamic Focus ever has anything that they want uplifted on social media, NYC Gamers follows y'all. We love the hell out of y'all. Give me any reason to invest because we just live for y'all. And I'm so thankful that y'all exist and that y'all are constantly just showing up and showing out. So
Our
thank you.
t-shirts are high quality. You can wear them and then like take a picture on social media and tag us. That actually helps us out a lot. Just having the brand out there on social media. If you buy a t-shirt and then put it on and click it, literally, it's volume. It does volumes.
Thank you so much. And I'm gonna lovingly challenge our audience to follow me in going to that merch shop and buying at least one thing and taking a picture and tagging Dynamic Focus. All right. Next we have Ari.
Um, if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's Boriquia Reads. It is BORIQUEER Reads. And that's my social media on all platforms. And I also have a YouTube channel, and it's all the same. Blog is the same as well. Venmo is Ari Silva 91, and Cash App is Old Dirty MB 91. OL Dirty ENBY 91. So if y'all want to just drop something in the Cash App or whatever, that would be fine. Whatever. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you so much. Reina?
Everyone can find me on Instagram, Raina Rut, RAINARUT. At Instagram, I'm really not on very many other platforms, but if anyone just wants a safe space to talk, I'm here to listen. And if I can offer any resources, then I will definitely do so. So if anyone needs any resources, please reach out, send me a DM, and I am happy to listen and kind of link you to what you need.
Thank you so much, Reina. JC?
You guys can find me at twitter.com/WJCDUBYUHJAYCEE. You can also find me in my Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/GAPOC. Yes, we do give out $20 a month to the top commenter every month. You guys can find me both in those spaces. As far as money, I'm gonna keep it a band with y'all. My group is coming. We'll be 501c3 soon. Just got my bylaws finished. When I'm done, just donate. We got stuff out here we want to do, recognition we want to, present. I got ambitions that I want to pursue. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I know what this season is headed for. I can bring it to the table. I just need funding to do so. So investors, anybody from the Bezos family, if you're trying to chop it up over some wine or something in California, let me know, because I heard y'all throwing that green, you know what I mean? And I don't need no million. Y'all can throw me 50,000 and baby, I can do the rest there. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna fold this over. So yeah, that's where I'm at with the donations. I appreciate anybody that wants to incline to volunteer that, but I'm gonna just keep it humble. I'm all right where I'm at. If you guys want to volunteer, DM me and let me know, and I'll let you know how we can put it towards the group and help those who actually are in need of gaming supplies, any gaming equipment, anything that we can get for somebody else that's struggling a little bit harder than we are.
That means so much. Thank you. And I know that's right. You better know your worth. Charge double. I want that divorcee money. And last but not least, Jonathan, aka Blasian FMA.
Well, Mackenzie Scott, Jeff Bezos' ex-wife, is out here saying that she can't give the money away fast enough because the investments they keep on every month, it's more than she can give away. So I want 150,000, but we can settle our court right now for $20.
Let's find her.
So you can find me, I think it's like right here somewhere, Blasian FMA on Instagram is a preferred place, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. It's like all over the place, but the preferred ones are YouTube and Instagram and TikTok. As for the organizations, there's Find This QPOC Life on any platform that does podcasts. We haven't done an episode all this year, but self-care, pandemic happened. Also, Black and Asian Alliance Network on Facebook. We have a public-facing like page for public-facing things, and if you happen to be Black and or Asian and you're interested in solidarity and alliance, then join the actual community group, which has about 7.8 thousand members right now. We're doing a lot of work to produce some great content. So yeah, just for me personally, Blasian FMA on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube. And if you are interested in Black Asian Solidarity, Black and Asian Alliance Network. We also have a podcast from that called We the Many. So yeah, that's my plugs, and thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank our panelists for being with us today. This has been Stay Wind Woke, addressing anti-Blackness and the importance of aspiring allyship throughout gaming. My name is Rafi Regulus. My pronouns are they, them, theirs, and I'm president of NYC Gamers. You have been with us via our Twitch channel or other places where we stream, via our Pride School Festival, NYC Gamers annual virtual convention. So you can check out our events all weekend. We have more fun, exciting panels. We have so many games going on in our Discord event server. You can register to attend our event for free at gamers.nyc/PSF. That's gamers.nyc/PSF. And remember that the Y in gamers means you belong. Thanks again, everyone, and have a happy Pride. Have a great weekend. And in ways that make sense to some of us and not to all of us, have a happy Juneteenth. Okay.